Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to Harping on Rugby. This is the front five, part of our weekly 80 plus column, where we harp on a selection of eye catching, egg chasing quotes and links from around the rugby media landscape. Now, in case you missed it, check out our wrap pod from last Saturday's win for Leinster over the Lions. Tom Coleman and Rich Smith did their usual excellent job summarizing all that happened. You'll find that in our podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. We also had an extra chat on Ireland's opposition for the Autumn Nation series. You'll find that one back on the YouTube channel, or you can get it with a full 80 plus column, including the front five links I'm about to harp on, plus all our other usual features like Troll Patrol, as well as a roundup of all the other major competitions in the world of rugby. That's all to be found on our website at harpingonrugby.blog. But for now, it's all about our latest front five. As you can see here, I've got 5 headings lined up. So without any further ado, let's crack on with this week's articles, starting with what's probably the biggest news for the midweek at the moment. It's obviously to do with Munster. This article comes from the Irish Examiner, usually the best source of information for things to do with our southern cousins. It's from Simon Lewis, and the headline reads, Graham Rowntree departs as Munster head coach. You would be living on a rock if you didn't know about this. It's been all that's been talked about for the past 24 hours. It's big news. It's a shock for everybody, Munster fans. Everybody was surprised to hear about this, considering how, they haven't gotten off to a great start to the season. But you have to say, when Graham Rowntree is in charge, I mean, his first season, they won the URC. Second season, they finished top of the log. There have been some disappointments. There's been disappointments in Europe. There's been, having finished top of the log last season, they did not continue the previous year's success. It hasn't all been glowing, but you think, bit of silverware might get you a bit of leeway, and you might stay on a bit longer. But we're still in the immediate aftermath. It's just happened about 20. The news broke anyway about 24 hours ago. But it does seem strange. Now, of course, there's the usual amount of speculation online. You take all of it with a pinch of salt. I'm sure the actual reasons will come through. There's the usual, there's a faction I call ABL, anyone but Leinster, who basically, whenever anything happens, whatever it is, they find a way to blame it on Leinster. So there's the theory that, because the IRFU favors Leinster, Graham Rowntree wasn't getting the support he felt he needed. So that was the reason. There's, I'd look at the other side as well. I mean, I wouldn't totally rule that out as being part of it. I'm willing to discuss it, but people who just jump straight to it, I think, is a bit much. There's internal factors going on. We don't know, the full story just yet. It's just the nature of it happening, the way it's just suddenly dropped. Six games into a season, he's just leaving with immediate effect. It's when something happens that quickly, sometimes you might announce at this stage that he'll leave at the end of the season. That's one thing, but to do it with immediate effect, something's after happening anyway. So there's a lot of speculation. You don't want to get too much into it at the moment. It's unfortunate. I think he's been good for Munster. Like I say, they have had their issues, but overall, I think it's, considering where they've been for the past, 10 years and the levels of expectations that they would have given their past, he's brought them on pretty well with the particular crop of players he had. And I think that last bit, it could be the key. There may be an issue with they're not bringing enough players through their academy, but listen, it'll all come through. And the quote I chose from this article is, Rowntree delivered Munster's first trophy in 12 years when he concluded his first season in charge. Okay. Now, I'm sure some people will be looking at this. We're a Leinster-based website, and he'll be going, ha ha, Nelson Muntz, laughing at what's going on, and don't want that at all. We want 4 strong provinces for Irish rugby. Obviously, there's rivalry. Obviously, I want Leinster to win, which means the other provinces wouldn't do as well if Leinster did win. That's what I would want, being a Leinster fan. But you don't wish ill on the other teams either. And we want a strong Munster. We hope they get over this, find a good replacement, and it doesn't affect their season too much. That is genuine. Okay. Our second article comes from extra.ie, and we're talking about Leinster now a little bit. This is adjacent to that anyway. This is to do with Jordie Barrett. The headline reads, Leinster-bound Jordie Barrett set to face future teammates with comeback. Now, of course, he got injured during the rugby championship, and we were a little bit concerned. But when word came out about his recovery time. It did seem like he would be back playing before his time with Leinster. He probably won't play for us until the Champions Cup kicks off, I'd say. But we were hoping, ideally, that he could maybe miss the November internationals and be back just in time. But of course, nothing ever happens like that. He's fit now. He's back training. He missed the All Blacks game in Japan last weekend, as my quote says there. And you see, with all these articles, there's a QR code there that'll bring you right to the link as well, or the links are on our blog as well. So you can, if you want to check out these links, you can find them that way. Anyway, the quote I've chosen is: the 27-year-old has returned to full training, and having been rested for the win in Japan last weekend, he's back in the frame. So he's back playing. It's good that he's going to get game time over the next few weeks. Obviously, we don't want him playing too well against Ireland, but we do want him getting match fit and staying fit and being able to play for us. I mean, there's the other side of that, is that Leinster have been doing so well in the center. Like, it's almost like, where do you put him? I mean, I said, is it conceivable that if he does make that, how am I even saying if he does make Leinster's 23 for the Champions Cup, maybe he'd be on the bench for his first game. Most clubs would get a player like him and just throw him straight in, but we've been doing so well in the center. But anyway, that's a debate for another day. But it's good news that he's back training, and good news that he's going to be, get a couple more All Black caps under his belt before he comes to Leinster, and hopefully he gets through them okay, fitness wise. Okay, a third article comes from the Independent. That's the UK Independent, and it's from Harry Latham Coyle. It's an interview with Maro Itoje. The headline reads: Maro Itoje on Lions, leadership, and politics. I'll return to number 10 one way or another. Now, that's referring to a piece in the article where he did a visit to number 10, and, it's probably a bit tongue-in-cheek, but he could also be revealing ambitions. Maybe one day politics is something he may want to go into, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Fair play if that's the way he wants to go. I think it does speak to his ambitions in a leadership role as well. There's been talk about him as a possible captain of the Lions, and I'm just wondering if, with Andy Farrell as the coach and Ireland, back-to-back Six Nations winners, going into it. We don't know how this year's one is going to go, but at the moment, when you're picking a Lions team, it is going to be mostly Irish, because it's a united team. You're putting four nations together. It might make sense to have a captain from another country. So I don't know. I think, and I couldn't. Maro Itoje does often have maybe disciplinary issues on the pitch. He does push the boundaries, but giving him the captaincy might help with that, so that, he could be a contender. So that's one of the reasons why I chose this article. It's interesting. And the quote I picked was: I don't want to be one of those players who just wins loads of caps. I want to be part of winning teams. That has always been my motivation. Again, that's a leadership kind of attitude, and that's the kind of guy you want leading your squad, leading your team. So he could be a good pick. Obviously, as Irish fans, we're going to pick Irish players. Kylan Doris has just been named Leinster captain. He's been doing well. Ireland captain. So it could be a case being the Lions captain, but I don't know if it always works like that. I still think there's a chance he might go for someone from another country. We'll see. But and that's why I picked this article. Okay, so that's Maro Itoje. Okay. On to our fourth article, and this comes from the New Zealand online publication stuff.co.nz. This is from Rachel Moore and Karanama Ruru, and the headline reads: England's props call to bin the All Blacks Haka doesn't go down well in New Zealand. Well, duh. Joe Marler is obviously who they're talking about. He's not involved in the England squad at the moment. He's not playing against the All Blacks, but he does like to go on Twitter and stir it a little bit. And usually I don't agree with what he says. And I suppose I wouldn't agree with how he's phrased that, but he said we should bin the Haka. Okay. I've always felt, while I know it's tradition and it's part of the sport, it's like deeply ingrained in the entire sports culture, this idea of what they call a cultural challenge before games. I've never been a fan of it, though, because when it comes to sport, I believe strongly the necessity to create as level a playing field as possible. And I think this just goes against those principles. It's like when you take the culture and the history out of it, It's like, okay, well, if they can do a cultural challenge, why can't all the others? It's such an intimidating ritual, and they do it right before the game. When you're in that build up mode and you're trying to get psyched for a kickoff, and they get to come out and basically threaten you and rile you up, and they do it the way they want it. They can orchestrate it to such a way. They pick different types of there's different types of hakas they do for different games, so they can influence it that way. That's an influence I don't feel they should have, or at least if they get to do something like that, other countries should. But other countries don't have cultural challenges. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. I've never really said it on the website that much before. I'm not a fan overall of the Haka. Of course, when you actually watch it in itself, it is exciting. It's entertaining, especially the way they do it now. Not the way they used to do it back in the 70s, where there was a much whiter, ironically, All Blacks team, and they just stand there, and it was like they're doing patty cakes. It was ridiculous to him. But nowadays, obviously, and it is very intimidating. But it's not the intimidation that I have the problem with necessarily. It's just the fact that they get to do something. I know there's other countries, Samoa, Fiji, they do ones as well, but that's really not the point. Of all the top 10 sides in the world, it's only really the All Blacks that get to do this. And I just don't think it's fair, basically. I don't know what you do. I don't know how you change it now. I don't think you I think the majority of rugby fans wouldn't want it to take it away. But the fact that Joe Mara comes out and says this, I think, is more significant than, it's just Joe saying something controversial. There is a kernel of truth to me in what he says. That's my point. Okay, so that's our fourth article, which leaves us with number 5, which again this week is our clickbait of the week. And again, I've gone to the same well for more clickbait. It's my first go-to. If I'm going to look for one, I always go to ruck.co.uk. I think they are the champions, the rugby clickbait champions of the rugby media landscape. They are just endless examples. And this refers to an incident where Kyle Sinclair, the England prop, was playing in the top 14, and he was binned. He was given a yellow card for a foul that he didn't do. Okay, so so that's fine, and that's an interesting story in itself. But the way they worded the headline, so this is the headline that not only pops up at the top of the article, but when you go to aggregators, or when you want to click from maybe another site that would have headlines from around the rugby media, this is what you see as the headline. And the first words are blatant racism. And then it says, Kyle Sinclair got yellow card for foul play by teammate. Now, when you see that quote in the headline, blatant racism, why wouldn't you assume that this is an official complaint that has been made? You might even think that it was Sinclair himself who said it. You know what I mean? That's the implication by the headline. So you go, oh yeah, click that, and they've got you. As it turns out, when you finally do read the article, this is something someone said on X. Some rando on X said blatant racism. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible that there could have been an element of racism, is it? I mean, it's up for discussion, like I say about pretty much everything. We can talk about it. But the reason that this website has put those words in its headline is to get you to click. And I'm just saving you the bother. The quote I've chosen from the article is, Sinclair, whose command of the French appears to be a work in progress, accepted his punishment and walked off the field. He didn't have an issue with it. He wasn't happy because he knew it wasn't him. He didn't see any ulterior motive other than they picked the wrong guy. But he accepted his punishment, walked off the field, and he didn't. And he never said, I don't see any quotes online that he claimed it was racism. This headline leaves you suggesting that maybe he did, and that's why they want you to get the click. So that's why it's our clickbait of the week. And I hate that stuff. Some would say I should do that for harping on rugby to get more clicks. I'm not doing it. For what it's worth, I don't care. But anyway, that's that. And that completes this week's Front Five. Listen, remember, we do a lot of other regular features on our 80 plus column. You can see them all by heading over to our website at harpandrugby.blog. Unless you're there already, you could be watching this on the site. If so, thank you for clicking without me trying to change my headline to get you to do it. You just did it of your own accord. Thank you for that. Now, there's no Leinster-Ireland match this weekend, so obviously there'll be no preview to record, but we do have something to replace our regular wrap pod, as on Sunday evening, I'll be assembling an all-provincial panel to look at Ireland's chances in the Autumn Nations series. So look out for that, and please be sure to subscribe to our channel, as well as other social media platforms. You'll find all of them at Linktree/HarpingOnRugby. So until next time, stay safe, everyone. Slán.